Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm going to ask a question right now. Some may think this is a deep question, but it's really not. And it's a game changer, a life changer. Here's my question. What is your purpose? What's your purpose in life? Why do you feel that you were placed on this planet? Are you living your purpose? And how would you know? If you are, every day feels fantastic. It feels like it all comes together. If it's not feeling that way, we're going to talk about that. We're going to help you find your purpose, especially when it comes to something you spend the most time at during the day. That's your job. He's somebody that helps people find their career path, i.e. their purpose, and directs them, walks that journey with them. He is Heinz Plaumann, and he joins us on the program today. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Best day ever, as I said. We're doing well. Great.
I love your energy. I love your passion. And I'm going to take a guess and say you in this have found your purpose.
I will say I certainly have. It took a while to get here. I spent a lot of my adult life working in industry and academia and scrummaging around. I will say I did a lot of things in those careers. And finally I said, people were coming to me and saying, hey, you've nailed this purpose stuff. Help me. And so it's helping other people find their purpose, their passion to have a life fully lived. I love it.
In my description, is that correct? When you find your purpose, it is your passion, and the feeling is just everything's right. It just feels like everything's good, right? You show up saying everything's great today. Is it just that?
Steve, I believe it is. There are other things to it. Life is a complicated mess these days. Sure. But if we had that as sort of our North Star to say, this is what I'm all about. This is why I'm breathing. I'm breathing to help others find their passion so they can say, yes, I got it. Life is fully lived for me. And once we find that North Star, the thing that says, guess what? This is what you're called to do. This is why you're breathing. You can put it as boldly as that and say, well, why are you still breathing? Because I have a purpose, and mine is to help other folks.
Now, when we say purpose, is it true that it doesn't necessarily have to translate monetarily? For example, you could have a job, and that's okay. You're all right with it. But then over here, you volunteer and you're doing other things. Would that also count as a purpose?
I would say so. I would certainly say so. Now, when I talk to people about their career developments, I talk about these three aspects. One is your purpose, your passion. That's the fire in your belly. I had a boss once tell me, you need to put fire in that person's belly. And I said, that is something that is almost impossible. We need to help them find their purpose, find that fire in their belly. Once they have that purpose, then we need to couple that with competence. You need to know how to do something. I would love to play a violin for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, except I don't play violin at all. And the third piece is you need to find something that's going to pay you enough money to eat. You have to eat. And then it's a matter of, well, how much money do you need to make? Do you want to make? Do you want to be filthy rich? People have scolded me for my endeavors here because I say, I'm not all about the money. I need enough. And then we come to a point to say, that's enough. We exist in a world of abundance and not scarcity in my mind, which means I look at my life and say, when's enough enough? I don't need more. Sometimes I'd like more and I want more, but I don't need more. So it's the balance of those three pieces, your purpose, your passion, which is that fire in your belly. You've got it there. It's a matter of finding it, knowing how to do something. Sometimes we need to retrain and learn more. And finally, you do have to eat enough. You do have to eat. So putting those three pieces together, that's kind of the approach that I use when I'm coaching people.
Well, I guess it's also, we should look at it, need and want. How much money? What do you want to earn? What do you need? And what do you want? And would it be great to win the lottery? Hey, I played last night. Actually, hold on. I'm sorry to jump in here, but it said waiting for results this morning. I never got the results. So last night was I won. No, it still says waiting for results. What is going on with
So
Mega Millions? What's going? Well, okay. My point here is, would be great to win Mega Millions. Do you really need it? You look at so many of these stories, and I believe the number's about 90% of those that win big in the lottery, it changes their life for the worse. They have less in the end, short period of time after winning, than they did before they had it. You know,
yes.
all different ways to look at it, the need and the want. How do you, Heinz, how do you break it down? So we identified a number of things here.
Well, what do we need? We need food, shelter, clothing, and in my mind, we also need a social entity, which means we need to have enough friends and enough contacts to fulfill that part of it. It's almost like the Maslow triangle of, your needs and wants coming down, where you need food, shelter, and clothing. And then there's a thing that for our, what he calls self-actualization, I need to have enough friends that I can say I'm giving to them and they're giving to me. We're sharing life together, doing life together. When we take a look at needs and wants, that's a really tough one, because everybody has to find their own way. And for me, as I get older, I look at some of this stuff and say, well, I'm not taking any of it with me.
Mhm.
So then it's a matter of, well, what am I going to do with it? You're going to give it to others. We have kids, we'll give it to them, but my intent is not to make them rich by dying. So
Exactly. And there's a lot of celebrities, music stars out there that say, I'm not leaving my kids a lot of money, because they want them to figure it out on their own. So I want to look at your process. So we have
sure.
somebody that wants to nail their purpose. They have a passion.
Yep.
Then we have to look at the skills. Then we have to look
Enough.
at whether it pays enough what
Yep.
they need. What if the skills don't match up? Like you said, great to play violin for an orchestra, don't play violin. How do you work with that?
Then it's a matter of seeing what would it take, what kind of costs would be involved. I love the point you just made about the needs and wants. I think Shaquille O'Neal he has a notoriety around this with his kids. He said, hey, look, I work to make the money. You guys need to work to make your money, right?
Sure.
What I use a process, I call it creating a career, kind of a life roadmap. It looks like an engineering diagram of some kind.
Sure.
Where you start, on the back, I've got some questions like this. What are your interests, passion? What do you like to do? What do you like to do in your spare time? And even if you schedule time, what are some things that really excite you that you like to do? And make a list, maybe a couple of things, skills and abilities you do have. You can make a list of those and say, I know how to do this, and I know how to do this pretty well, or I can learn more. What are some steps I can take to test them out? A lot of this is networking, talking to people. And I'm kind of a notorious networker myself. I have thousands of LinkedIn contacts. And why? What do you know about them? I say, I share my information with them. They share back with me. I will ask them things like this. What are you doing now? What do you like about it? What would you change about it? In this negative world, I don't say, what do you hate about it? I say, what would you change about it? And then I'll ask them, so in this, is this a passion for you? How did you find it? Who else should I talk to? And then your network explodes. And then you can have that one-on-one conversation with more people. And then that helps you create a picture of what your passion and interests are. I wish I could do this for a living. And then it's a matter of looking at it and saying, how good a living do you want? I also have a small music gig. When you take a look at rock stars, are absolutely wealthy people, like athletes. They're absolutely wealthy people. They're like 1 in a million. 1 in a million musicians. Most musicians I know are breaking their backs on weekend gigs in little bars in the area. Not a living, not a good living. But I wish I could, I wish I could. Then they need contacts, they need networking. So your interests, your passion, your values are a part of that too. Integrity, things like that, your values, your skills and abilities that you now have. What are the things that you would like to learn additionally to that? And then finally, how can you test some of these things out? I said, I wish I could be a professional violinist. If you put a violin in my hand, everyone else would say, oh, stop that cat. That
Right.
cat is screaming.
Right.
Another part of that is it's a picture that Stephen Covey paints for us in his first book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective. Start with the end in mind. Take a look and say, do you have a vision? Can you see what that would look like in the end? And a vision is a desired future state. It's over there somewhere. I can see it. I can describe it to you. And if I tell you, this is what it looks like, me playing violin for the symphony orchestra, that's cool. But the road to get from here to there is very, very rough. You know, people talk about the 10,000 hour rules. I don't know if I have 10,000 hours still to invest in playing violin. So then the practicalities come into play. So you look like you want to ask a question, Steve.
Do you think that we get caught up, and that's reasonable to think the 10,000 steps or hours to get to the goal as a violin player? It's a lot of dedication going on there, a lot of time. But do you think that a lot of us get caught up in, and I love what you're saying in the vision, visualize it, create it, and it will be. Many people talk about that in manifestation. I see it. It's right over there. I got it. Do a lot of people get caught up in the steps to get there? And how do you make that determination that it's too many steps to get there? In your example, 10,000 hours to play violin.
Then it's a matter of, again, challenging the people and saying, let's talk about this. It's amazing what happens when you talk to people. It's even more amazing what happens when we listen to them. In typical conversation, just through the stuff I've read, etc., people physically hear only 50% of what we say. They understand 50% of that, and they remember 50% of that the next day, which means by the time you've done saying something, they're going to remember only 10% or so the next day. So it's a matter of communication, to saying, well, this is what I'd like to do. I would ask person why. Start with why. That's a famous business book by Simon Sinek, I think. Start with why. Why do you want to play violin for the symphony orchestra? Is it kind of, it'd be cool to do, and I'd love to have that, on my resume? No, I don't want to spend the 10,000 hours. People laugh about some of those things, the 10,000 hours. For example, people will say, oh man, when the Beatles showed up in the early 60s, the Ed Sullivan Show, they just nailed it. What most people don't know is they gigged and gigged and gigged for a couple of years in a strip bar in Hamburg, Germany, refining their songs, refining their harmonies. They did all this stuff, 6 to 8 hours a night playing in a strip bar in Germany. Practice, practice, practice. It's the 10,000 hours. They had that when they came here. So they already knew all that stuff. So then it's a matter of saying, okay, 10,000 hours. Let's start with 2 hours a day. Would you spend 2 hours a day practicing violin, Heinz? I can't make it that important. So then I would look at that and say, I need to adjust my dream and say, violin's not a good one. That's not a good one for me. Doing training, doing this kind of stuff I'm talking with you about, Steve, that is a good one because I already have a lot of that competence. I have a lot of that skill. Wow.
Digression on the Beatles blows my mind. And by the way, when I was younger, I didn't appreciate them. I was like, that's old music. I don't want to hear that. Now as I get older, it's like I put on headphones. Wow. The way that was mixed, the harmonies, what they did in 5 years from the Ed Sullivan Show to their last album. Toured, of course, there were women and drugs involved too. Songwriting, recording, all of that. It's mind-blowing that they did that. They made that mark on our generations.
Absolutely.
In 5 years. But like to your point, they were already prepared for that way before. They already took the 10,000. Yeah. Your journey. I want to go back to that. You skimmed through that for just a moment, but before you nailed your passion, and it's apparent this is it. It's in your DNA. You found the sweet spot. What were you doing along the way before that?
I was working in industry. I have a technical background. And I was working in the chemical industry. I'll say I donated most of my adult life to the chemical industry, about 35 years of it. I worked in Canada, I worked in Germany a couple of times, in North Carolina. What happened was the last, I say 15, 20 years or so, I was using roadmaps like this, helping people design their careers within that company. And they said, wow, this is great. People, what comes in the room before you open the door? Your reputation. My reputation was such that people were saying, you want to talk about career planning? Go talk to Heinz. And I would talk to them about their passion. Well, you studied chemistry, but is that really what your passion is? Well, my passion's kind of over here. I don't want to say we trick ourselves, but we go into areas and then we get smarter. You should learn something every day, so you'll be smarter. then they'll say, that's not really my passion. My passion is kind of over here. So I help them design these things and I set them up with contacts. I said, oh, you're interested in doing this. Here's somebody you should talk to. Set up a 15-minute appointment. What do you do? What do you like about it? What would you change about it? Who else should I talk to? And at that point, they start networking using that formula more or less. And then they can come back and say, well, here I've got a roadmap. So I know where I could go next. I could move into a research job, or I could move into production or marketing or other business functions. I could do other things, and it helps them navigate to sample stuff. I mean, none of us is born knowing all this stuff. A good way to test your career interests and your passion is try some stuff. Just try some things. And then you can say, nah, not for me. I have some things on that roadmap I call never do's. What's a never do? I'm never going to work in a bank. What's wrong with that? One of my kids does. Nothing. Not my passion. Not my skill set. Two of my kids work in the medical area. Not me. That's a never do. Not my passion. Not my skill set. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. So then it's a matter of trying some things and saying, yeah, I like this one. It's like a buffet, let's pretend. And most of us overeat at a buffet, let's say. I'm blaming myself. So we start putting all kinds of stuff on our plate. Actually, we should look at it and say, I'll try some of this and some of this and some of this, and then go back.
I love the way you look at that. I really do. And I'm a proponent of never say never.
Yeah.
Because anything can change. However, finance, me, no, can't do it. Numbers bore me. I loathe it. I don't. But, let's say if I'm on a deserted island and the only way to get off is to mathematically figure something out.
Yeah.
Never say never. But yeah, there are things you can't do, you don't want to do.
Right.
Interesting how you've already thought those things out. Yeah, I love your process. Now you mentioned LinkedIn and many connections. When you're working with somebody, can you offer advice to increase their LinkedIn connections? And go
Sure.
a little bit deeper than just helping somebody find their passion.
What I tell people, the first thing, and I ran some workshops. I'm a member of the American Chemical Society, and they just had a conference in New Orleans last week. And I was there 3 days running workshops for them and stuff like that. And we talked about LinkedIn. And I said, your LinkedIn profile, the very top stuff, that is your billboard. When people look at that, they're going to say, I want to talk to this person, or maybe not. It's a billboard. Imagine you're racing down an interstate and there's a billboard. What do you see? Almost nothing. Here's Heinz, call him. What's his number? I don't know. It's gone. So that's kind of your billboard, which means this is who I am. This is what I can do. How can I help you? And I tell people, when you give your elevator speech, those are key things. If you come in and say, look what I know, nobody cares what you know. What they want to know is, how can you help me? We're downright selfish beings that way. What can you do to help me? So if you come along and say, hey, I'm a person that knows this and can do this for you, LinkedIn becomes a useful tool. People find me that. I'll say that's how the Professional Business Network found me. So we saw your thing on LinkedIn. Would you please interview with us? Delighted to. And when people see that billboard, then it's, oh, here's a person that I want to contact. And then it's a matter of going in and using the tools in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one tool, not the only one, but it's a darn useful one. It's a very useful one that way.
Interesting. Have you gotten business, from LinkedIn? Have you made, those types of connections through it?
Sure, I have. And again, now we're talking about money, business, and that's where I've had many people come to me and say, I want to train you to become a professional speaker. You can make X bazillion dollars a year being a professional speaker. And I say, thanks, no thanks. Because that's not necessarily helping me connect with people to help them. Sure. People have reached out to me on LinkedIn. The first thing I say to them is, what do you need? What do you want? Well, I need to change careers. Okay, I go through the steps. What do you know? What can you do? What's your passion? I go through those steps. And within my network, I almost always, not always, but almost always know someone. Here's a connection for you. Talk to this person, find out what they do. Again, that normal kind of discussion with them. And then who else can I talk to? I talked with someone yesterday in California, and they said, well, I'm in this situation, blah, blah. And I said, I'm going to send you 3 names of people. Reach out to them, set up 10, 15-minute Zooms or just phone calls. Ask them, what do you do? What do you like? What don't you like about it? I tell people, beggars don't get hired. Don't say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Please help me, right? So beggars don't get hired normally.
Well, Heinz, it goes right back to what you said before. I want to, instead of saying, please hire me. No, this is what I can do for you.
Right. Yep.
I think you should hire me.
Exactly. Because we all have those needs to say, guess what? I want someone to help me. And here I am to offer that to you. So from that standpoint, I get lots of connections and I do help lots of people. And for me, the joy of the world is when somebody gets hired. And they almost always write back and say, Heinz, thanks so much. I got hired, blah, blah. A lot of this happens with students that I've taught at the university and things like that. Hey, Heinz, I got hired. They still call me Dr. Plaumann. And I say, hey, once you graduate, it's Heinz. It's okay.
Well,
so, I love doing that. That's so rewarding for me.
It shows, and your passion is there, and just knowing that you're helping people be happy. Why are we on this earth? We're here to be happy. This is my belief. We're here to be happy, but also teach others. I know stuff that you don't know. I guarantee it. You know things that I have no idea about. We're here to share and help each other, and along the way, better ourselves and meet our needs, whatever our needs might be, to eat, whatever that might be.
I stole these comments. This is coming right from some podcast that I saw with Stephen Covey. He says, the reason we are here is to live, to learn. Like you said, we don't know everything. To live, learn, love, and then leave a legacy. We're all going somewhere else. And what we leave behind is all that's going to be left. So live, learn, love, and leave a legacy. When you look at that, man,
wow.
Keep breathing.
Yeah, we're on the same vibration here because I said about two of those, 4 or 5, whatever. Love. Number one, love what you do. And I live by this, and this is in my journey. Love everyone, trust few. And that's a tough one, but you can't trust everyone. Trust few, and always do the right thing for all, not just yourself.
Yeah. Very good. Excellent.
And when you think about, finding your passion, I guess we're kind of doing that. You have to trust people to a point along your journey, but you're loving what you're doing, and you're doing something to help others. And of course, you're bettering yourself. And they say that's the way the universe works. I give you something, you give me something in return. Sometimes people, they have come to me and said, I appreciate your information. I want to pay you. I'm like, I'm not taking anything. They'll tell me, I'm going to send you 99 cents on Venmo because it's the exchange of something in energy. I'm like, whatever you want to do.
It probably, maybe it helps them somehow. So send it to me. It's okay. So
whatever it might be.
There's another book I'm going to mention called Give and Take by a guy named Adam Grant. And he says, givers are far better than takers because stuff comes back. Like you said, the universe treats your giving somehow, more stuff comes back than you gave away. So you end up with more. Wonderful.
But you shouldn't do it expecting anything in return.
Right. If you're expecting your stuff in return, then it's not giving, then you're trading.
Well said and fair enough. Give us the details on how to connect with you if somebody wants to change careers, be coached, even find their passion. What do we do? How do we find you, Heinz?
This is the best email address to reach me by. HM, my last name, Plaumann, PLAUMANN. And that's a cheap old gmail.com. At one point, I had 6 email addresses, and I said, we'll just use this one, hmplaumann@gmail.com. Or you can take a look at we also have a website. Also, Heinz at QuantumQik, that's pronounced. And that's also a Gmail address. We also have a website for our company called QuantumQik, Quantum, QUANTUM, Kik. I used to say, let's kick your career to the next quantum level.
Love it.
So quantumqik.com. You can find us there and we can connect with us there.
Fantastic. Love the flashcards, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, very visible and great talking with you. I'm going to say delightful, refreshing. It really was. Yeah.
My pleasure. Pleasure.
You've found your purpose and you find passion in helping people move their lives forward. And for that, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We will be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.